Let this buffer a bit. You are live. The internet can totally see you now.
Wow.
I've always been amused by that message. Ooh. Let's exit email so that doesn't happen again. All right. In 3, 2, 1.
I'm the darkness, you're the starlight shining brightly from my heart. Through waters of despair, I offer this prayer to you, my evening star.
Greetings. This is Jesse from Nintendo Dads with our Retro Rewind. And I already lost my notes. The Retro Rewind episode 3020, recorded on April 4th, 2018. And we'll be discussing our thoughts on Final Fantasy VI. With me, I have two guests, as I hinted at on our last episode. From the Nintendo directors, we have Brad and Mark. So,
Hey there.
Hello.
Feel free to do a quick introduction of yourselves to let people know who you are and what you do, and then we'll kind of get started. Brad, do you want to start?
Sure. So we are, again, I'm Brad, and this is my cohort, Mark. We do the Nintendo Directors podcast, and we basically we're just two band directors who love Nintendo and love video games in general, and we like to come at we cover a lot of the same things that Nintendo dads do with the news and updated on the things that are going on in Nintendo worlds, keeping up with games and seeing the new games that come out and whatnot. But we also like to focus a lot of our stuff on just the musical aspects of video games in general. We we do a lot of soundtrack. We call them reviews, but essentially they're just kind of looking back and doing discussions about what makes them great, and what different composers do with different different pieces of music that they write for specific games and how it works with all that. So a lot of that's kind of where we find our niche, whatever you want to call it. So, we were talking about any other thing you want to add to that, Mark?
I play the tuba.
Right.
I also discovered Fortnite, and so
not a Nintendo game, Mark.
I know,
but maybe it will be soon.
I know.
A lot of people are hoping.
I will add that Final Fantasy VI has for 22 years now, or 23. When did it come out? 95. It had 94. It came out in 94.
There was a tweet yesterday. I forget who sent it, but the Super Famicom version came out 24 years ago. 2 days ago, April 2nd.
Yeah. Okay. So for 24 years, that's been my favorite game. Although Breath of the Wild just finally tied it this last year. So, yeah, I love this game.
Pretty big deal.
All right.
That's a pretty big deal.
And I like your slogan that you use on your show, that you wave sticks at kids for a living.
Yeah, it's accurate.
True. Yeah. Sometimes we throw them, but it's more
It's unintentional, but I did backhand a student once. I didn't mean to, but I did really good. It was meant to be a cue gesture, and I smacked the flute player right up in the face.
That third beat just was wild.
Yes, exactly. It was beat 3. It was beat 3, and I just drilled her, and I was like, I'm getting fired. Like it was my second year of teaching. I thought I was done. So.
We actually, I didn't smack a student, but there was one concert I was conducting in once, and I didn't throw my baton, although that has happened before. But it was in the middle of a very exciting piece, and
Vesuvius.
Yes, it was called Vesuvius, and all of a sudden my hand got caught on the score in front of me, and the whole score just flies right into the Oboe player's lap. It's just like, and
The
so
composer of that piece saw the video of it, and he's like, "Oh,
That's right.
you're the guy that
you're
did
the
that."
YouTube guy. I was trying
Yeah.
to tell him Frank DeKelly. I was trying to tell him that story. He's like, "Yeah, and I was doing this. You're the YouTube guy." So yes, we actually we were able to keep going, and we finished the tune, and it was okay.
It's still on YouTube, I think. I thought it's on. Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway,
All right,
Sorry.
so we're
Final
here.
Fantasy.
We're here to talk about Final Fantasy VI, and well, technically, I should be calling it Final Fantasy III, since that's how it was released in North America. I refuse to actually call it that because Final Fantasy III came out on the DS.
yes, it did. It was great too. I liked it on the DS, but that's another episode entirely.
Yeah, as I said, I don't like job systems, so I didn't get far in that game. That and the fact that you start the game off with Perma Mini, and you can't do a damn thing.
That's right.
And that was just, that put me off. Anyway, Final Fantasy 3, 6, 3. So we like to start off.
Let's refer to it as the best one.
Yes. I actually had a little debate with my son's friends who was talking about 7.
They're wrong.
Yeah, because they were playing Smash Brothers, and at the game ended, it did that. Like, no, that's not the right victory music. 6 is better.
Way better.
And if I remember, I'll try to put it in right here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we like to start off these retro rewinds with our histories with the game. If I remember right in our chats, one of you has played it before and the other one has not. Am I right?
Correct. One of us has played it quite a bit, and one of us just started about a week ago.
Yeah. So I gave you about a week and a half notice, so I know you guys didn't get all that far in your recent playthroughs, but we'll talk about that later. So
But Spring Break did help me to get through a good portion of it.
I've played it through to completion close to 10 times. I've gone for really high level ups probably 3 or 4 times with characters, but there was a period where I played it every year. I just got back into it every year, so I love this game.
yes.
I've not played it that much.
Yeah, this game came out in a kind of in a time of my life where it was like my second or third year in college. I haven't played music much since I graduated high school in '92. I played in University of Minnesota marching band that fall, and then that was pretty much it. So this came out 94, 90 in North America, 96.
I think it's 94, 95.
Okay, so while it was, I've been out of music for a while. The music still really sunk me in, and as I said many times, I've enjoyed that opera scene, and we'll talk more about that later. I've liked RPGs. I played the original Final Fantasy. I played Final Fantasy 2, 4. And I've played Dragon Quest, so I was familiar with how JRPGs worked, and I just liked how Final Fantasy was building story into the game instead of just constantly you go out, kill the bad guy, and you go out and kill the bad guy. That's not much of a story. But
yeah.
So yes. So speaking of stories, if that's the first bullet I wanted. Okay.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say, for me, as I said, I did kind of started this last week or so, but just in general, this was a relatively new experience for me, in that I really don't have a whole lot of history with JRPGs in general. The only one I can think of that I ever actually played to completion was the original Kingdom Hearts, which was pretty fun. And some probably would even argue it's not the traditional, turn-based JRPG that most people think about, but which is not. But it's as close as I can get to lots of experience with a Japanese-made RPG. So I guess if you count, I played the first couple of hours of Earthbound once, and
that's about as far as I've gotten.
Yeah. Yeah, I got lost, or I got.
Yeah, and we even did a retro rewind of Earthbound, and it didn't go well.
Really? Nobody could really say anything about it once you get to Forville or whatever it is.
I think
the town's number.
Yeah, the numbers. I think I only got to the number 2.
Okay. Yeah. So this was an interesting experiment for me, just exposing myself more thoroughly to a genre that I really don't have very much experience with at all. So,
So
but it's
did
been
this give you more interest and might want to try other RPGs in the future, or are you like, eh?
Well,
I
I mean,
like
I guess we'll
action
get into it
games.
more once we get to, the battle system and stuff. But yeah, I was surprisingly. I like the battle system for the depth that it has, but there were definitely times in the 15-ish hours that I played where I was like, I just want to get to the other side of the map, and can I please just can you please give me like more than a second of walking time to get there?
Random battles. Woo!
Random battles.
Yeah.
Chrono Trigger tried to solve that. So
Yeah, we'll get into more of that later, but yeah, generally it was a pretty cool experience, especially once I got towards the end of where I stopped at. So,
So, Mark, how far did you get in your recent playthrough?
I actually haven't played it recently.
Okay.
But I know I actually listen to the music on the regular, and like I said, I've played it to completion probably 10 times, and so I do know the game inside and out. And
Okay.
I also fell victim to the pre-internet schoolyard rumor spreading about how to bring a certain character back from the dead that you can't bring back, but I spent countless hours trying to bring this character back.
Are you referring to Shadow?
No, not Shadow.
Oh, Leo?
Yeah. And I spent so much time killing Tyrannosaurus Rexes for that, and just still bad memories.
See, so when the game was new, I had access to Usenet News through the university that I was going to. So,
sure.
And I don't, no one knows about that today, but in fact, I still frequent a few channels on Usenet. But that was a few areas that talked about the games that were hot, and very often people would come up with, what is now what you would see on game packs,
Sure.
But they were easily lost to time because they weren't archived, just posted and then lost over time.
Right.
But so those types of documents existed in the mid '90s. So I was able to I grabbed them and was able to get hints from that. So the kind of a free version of a strategy guide with that user created content.
Did anybody talk about rumors on how to revive Leo?
I don't remember. Not that I remember. I think these
Good.
guides generally kept to what is known to be fact. They didn't really go into rumors.
It's like all the time.
Rumors. The rumors were in different threads.
Yeah.
It's like all the times when people were saying for so long that you could actually obtain the Triforce in Ocarina of Time, and there were people who were hunting for that for years. They were so convinced that you would be, because there was that one spot in the inventory that was still grayed out, or not grayed out, but it looked like the Triforce should fit there, but it didn't.
So in my playthrough, I only got to when the world of ruin begins. So as I talk about it to people who really don't understand, haven't played the game or don't know the full story, I call it the big mid-game twist.
Yes.
And
it's amazing.
It is.
Yeah. By the way, Brad, it's impossible to do this without spoilers for
right.
you.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, it's fine.
That was such an amazing mid-game twist. It was just like, wait, what just happened? Like, and like, I remember my first playthrough, like longing to get that original World of Balance back, and like, it's just like crushing to me. It was like, as I realized, it's never gonna be back. It'll never be the same. It was like a huge life lesson for me. Like, some things can't go back. So
kind of to talk about it a little bit more, to let people know who we're talking about. While you're playing the game, the villain Kefka finds these 3 statues that are perfectly aligned that helps maintain the magic balance on the planet. So he becomes a jerk and moves them out of alignment. And that ends up literally destroying the world.
And why does he do it?
That seems like poor planning on the planner's part. All you have to do is move a stone a little bit. You throw the whole world into chaos.
But it takes a special person like Kefka to look at that and say, I just want to see everything burn. And there's no reason. He just wants to see the world end. And he's the perfect villain. He's so good. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. So I have beat the game in the past multiple times, and I did a replay on the PS3 like 6 years ago or so. 5 years ago was the last time I played it to completion. We've been playing the PS1 version on the PS3, which that has all the censorship that was put into the Super Nintendo version from the Famicom. Isn't there. It's pretty much the Famicom artwork. So all the
Siren Esper was one that was censored.
Yeah, a lot of the statues, a lot of the espers, and even the it's the soda. You know, when you go into the shop or in the towns.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the signs are pub again.
Pub, yeah, yep.
Yeah, you can't have pubs in North America.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
there was. Go ahead.
So so back then I did finish the game, but this time I wasn't able to do it, and the big reason is because I wanted to stream everything. You know, I have a 7-part playlist out there on YouTube with my entire playthrough of what I've gotten so far, which requires me to play it on the couch and the TV, which really makes me appreciate the Switch. Because if this was on the Switch and I wasn't worrying about streaming, I probably could have finished it. Because if I have 5 or 10 minutes, I can sit back, play it. When I'm done, put it down. In order to try to play it on the TV, I literally have to know I have 2 to 3 hours that I can play uninterrupted. If I don't know I have that, I can't play it.
Yep.
Because there's no point in trying to stream it when you know if you're going to get cut off. So that's why I only got 7 parts on the series. So I still want to continue it and play it and try to finish it, but with the way it works, I don't know if I'll ever do it. But I'll keep trying.
Yeah.
That being said, it is nice to have the Super NES Classic. That's how I got to experience this.
And that's how I was playing it.
Yeah, and it's convenient. And actually, honestly, it got me back to my Super NES Classic because I haven't really touched that thing in a couple of months.
If it wasn't on the Classic, I probably would have played it on the Vita.
Okay.
Yeah.
But of course, then I couldn't have streamed it. I couldn't have streamed it that way.
Right. As somebody who went into this game not knowing anything about it other than it's this, classic RPG, can I just say that the box art for this game tells you absolutely nothing about what's going on.
It shows you
it's
a
just
Moogle.
that picture, right?
Yep.
So what exactly am I supposed to infer from that? Like all these, these great heroes going off to save this world that's fallen into ruin, and just nope, just this little cuddly little,
Hey,
little guy.
Mog's pretty awesome.
Fuzzy thing with bat wings.
Yep. And Mog is like your friend to the Sasquatch Umaro later in the game. Like he's your bridge. I like Mog a lot.
Though I don't think I got Mog in my play in the first half of the game. I must have somehow missed that.
Yeah, there is a way to miss it. And I did it on one of my playthroughs when I was trying to go through it quickly, and I can't remember what it is. I think you just skip the caves in Narsh a certain time. I can't remember how you do it.
I found the Mog cave or the Moogle cave, but I must have not have talked to the right one at the right time.
Yeah. Yep. That is one of the unique things about the game. That game at that time was there were very, very specific timed things you needed to do, like Shadow. You can lose him. Like getting Mog, getting Umaro, like all these.
Yeah, and I did save Shadow.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So if you don't save Shadow as the world is ending, he is gone.
He's dead. Do you want to wait for him? The timer's running. Do you want to wait? And it keeps asking you, are you sure you want to wait? And it's just like, I don't know. Why are you prompting me again, Dave? I wanted to, but I'm going to leave him. And then he's dead.
Yeah, that sequence is a time limit. And the first time through it, I ran out of time. I think I was like 4 squares away from the edge when I ran out of time. And of course, there's like a 15-minute cutscene after the last save point. So I had to go through all that.
Been completely destroyed. They stopped to monologue.
Right. So yeah, So I did manage to save Shadow this time. I think when I played on the PS3, I don't think I did because I had forgotten about that.
That's fine.
Okay, and then what I remember from the second half of the game is most of the game is just you going around reassembling your team, and then finding a few new ones like Umaru. Yep. And as you find your party again, you learn a little bit more of the history of each character. So there's more character development going on as you're playing. So the story itself isn't really progressing other than these smaller character arcs. And then at any time you can go attack Kefka. But if you're not high, if you don't have enough characters and you're not high enough leveled, good luck.
Yes.
So that's essentially what the second half of the game is. So there's nothing major in the story other than just the minor character developments.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Definitely most of the character development happens first half. But I always enjoyed getting to the point because in the final dungeon you have to have 3. You split up your group into 3 different parties to go through the dungeon, and I loved getting to the point where it'd be like, I can just put one person in each of those groups and they're going to solo their way through, and like that was supremely rewarding. Like knowing like, yes, I've conquered this game. In retrospect, that's a lot of time wasted, but to get to that point. But
yeah, I think my first time through, I think my characters were over-leveled mainly because I got lost a lot, and I had the Super NES advantage, and there was a thing you can do really early on the raft in the river. Like I think if you
with Bannon.
Yeah, so
it's great.
If you
so good.
Push the turbo button down on the A button and then found a way to keep it down, it would just go in a loop and you just keep on wrecking the place. And
that's awesome.
And you can level up insane at that area. I think I started it, went to bed that night, went to school that day, and then came back.
You'd be over leveled for the rest of the game.
Pretty much.
That's awesome.
I don't remember the consequences of that, but I do remember doing it.
That's fantastic.
Okay.
So I will say, with like, again, this being not only one of the few RPGs that I've really sunk a lot of time into, but just in general, this is a 2D game that really surprised me with its storytelling. Again, because the story of Mario going after Peach doesn't exactly tug at your heartstrings usually. But so I don't know if it's just all the other narrative heavy games that I've played have been more third person action games or just more modern games in general when cinematics and stuff came in. So I've just been really impressed with the way, like how well the characters are written and how they're developed. When you get those, you go into this random town and all of a sudden you see, oh, this is a person that's connected to so and so, and this is some of the more of their backstory there. And like Mark was saying, like Kefka, he's a great villain. So like the way that he's portrayed through a lot of those,
he begins the game as comic relief. And by the end, he's the ultimate villain,
Right.
It's a great twist because for me, I thought. Go ahead.
Like he's yelling at his the army he's following to dust the sand off his shoes
in the middle of the desert.
In the middle of a desert, trying to find the castle.
It's awesome. It's so good. Like at that point, you already start to get a glimpse into like how he views the world. Like he's just like, these scrubs, I don't know, dust my boots. Like this is going to be futile, whatever. Like, to him, everything it's futile. What's the point? Like, yeah. Man, it's so good. I like, for you think it's going to be Emperor Gestalt the whole time. You're like, that's the
and even
villain.
Casca's music is playful.
Yes.
And so
Yep.
you don't think he's going to be a threat.
And man, is he.
He,
For
he-
everything.
he goes Joker level insane at the end of the game.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so good. It's so good. Anybody? Sorry. Brief segue into Final Fantasy VII. People who want to talk about main villain, the main villain of a game, and when they bring up Final Fantasy VII, I'm just like, oh, come on. He's just a mama's boy. Sephiroth is, he's fine as a villain, but he's just a mama's boy that,
That's another game I never could get more than 4 or 5 hours into.
Yeah, like,
And I've tried multiple times.
yeah. Yep. Same.
Right, so this conversation kind of segues into another one of my bullets. Let's just jump to the arts and graphics. So, one thing I liked about this game is how it handled the cutscenes.
Yes.
The cutscenes were all in engine.
Yep.
So there's nothing that you didn't have to worry about the pre-rendered garbage that they tried to do in the PS1 and 64 era. It, looked good at the time, but by today's standards is
Man, it doesn't age.
It doesn't age well.
Rough.
Yeah, so everything's in engine using the large sprites and very expressive, especially the eyes.
Yes. I would say, to me, like, looking at late 16-bit games that were really made well, like, those were people that knew how to get the most out of their medium that they were working with, and the animations for those sprites is so limited yet so perfect to, like, convey a wide range of emotions. It always floored me.
I didn't realize it at the time because I didn't know how sprite graphics worked. It just seemed like magic at the time, but now that I kind of know how there's literally pieces of graphics in memory that gets put together to build a single frame and then animate that at 30 frames a second.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
Yeah, no kidding. It's very time heavy, but
And I think... Go ahead.
I was going to say, for me, I love the aesthetic of Final Fantasy VI so much. I think it's still a gorgeous game to look at, which is why I'm so excited for Octopath Traveler on the Switch. Because to me, that's like, it's everything I want. Again. Yeah, it has the same aesthetic appeal, but with like a 3D look to it. It's like an updated version of Final Fantasy VI to me. So
I will say that I do think the art is definitely beautiful, especially in the towns and such. I think that everything looks really cool. Obviously, limited resources on those days. They reuse a lot of those assets. Like, every town is the same essentially, just the buildings in different places, which is fine. I think, when you're in the overworld, that stuff doesn't, it's not quite so endearing.
And rarely is. So I kind of give that a pass.
Say that again?
I say it rarely is. Most games
for the
kind
overworld?
of put less detail into the overworld and then gets more detailed as you get zoomed in.
Right.
Yeah.
So that never bothered me. It's because at the time that was normal.
Sure. And I think it's I think it's pretty cool what they were able to do with some of those pseudo 3D effects, like when you're riding a chocobo, and you're
using the Mode 7.
Yeah. So that was pretty neat. I definitely said, even though it doesn't look amazing, like, that effect is pretty neat for a 2D game.
it is. It didn't age as well as the rest of the game.
No,
but it still looks okay. It definitely wowed me as a kid.
Yeah, because you're rendering a map on a flatter plane, zoomed in, so you can see pixels, an inch by inch almost, when played on a 50-inch TV. So yeah, that part I agree doesn't age well. But another kind of going back a little bit to I think one of my favorite cutscenes is the first time you used you had Terra use a magic spell.
When they're all just like, what just happened?
Yeah, they literally stop the battle and have a conversation right there in front of the bad guys. Like, what just happened?
Yes, that's a great moment.
By the way, you guys are using. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I don't think it had the same impact when it was when it was new. It's because again, maybe I just don't remember it. But even on the most recent playthrough, I was amused, and I always get a chuckle every time I see that screen.
I was gonna say, by the way, you guys are using all of these fancy names for these people. So again, I just went into this kind of.
Brad was blasphemous.
Doing what they seem to offer there. When they introduce a new character to, they let you change the name. If you
changed
want.
the name.
I sure did, and so I was just having fun with it.
Awful.
So, Mark and I were talking about this earlier. I think I deeply offended him. I just started putting in all kinds of fun things. Like, I guess, is it the first girl you meet? Is that Tara?
Tara.
Yes, she's Tara.
Well, she was
Tara.
Zelda.
No, she's not Zelda.
She's Zelda. My ninja is Joe the ninja.
No.
And then there's the guy who's king. That's Stuart.
Edgar.
His little brother is just called Little. So Little.
Tiny would have been funnier.
Cyan's name. Cyan is Cyan. It's not whatever you name. Jim.
The sword tech guy.
Yeah.
That's Cyan. You named him Jim.
Yes,
You're
Jim.
the worst.
Oh.
Blasphemy.
Yeah, I'm lousy at name creation, which is why we were talking about before we started recording that I've had my same handle for almost 25 years. So yeah, I don't do well with creating names. So I'm perfectly fine.
Neither does Brad. Neither does Brad.
Right?
I'm perfectly fine with accepting default names.
Hey, what about the wild native boy? I named him Tarzan. Is that?
Oh
Go.
Go.
Oh, Gao and Cyan's relationship is funny.
It is so good. So good. Thou.
Also, he's got really good moves. He does. He's pretty powerful. At least when I was using him.
He's one that
You just use the Templar moves over and over.
We'll probably get. We'll talk about him a little bit when we talk about battle system.
Okay.
But actually, I don't. I've covered everything I wanted to mention about arts and graphics. Is there anything else?
I liked I was really wowed with it when I first played it. When it came out, I was in like 7th or 8th grade. I was really wowed with the graphics of it, and I still really like the in battle graphics of the enemies a lot, as well as the background. Like when you look up, like when you're in a grassy field and you look back, you can see the tree line and everything. And I still think that looks very gorgeous. It's really well crafted. So, anyways, that's it.
Okay, so let's move on to battle system and talk a little bit about that. One of the I don't know. I think he's supposed to be one of the more powerful characters, but I've never found a good way to use him. Is Gao with his rage, not rage, but
leap and then rage.
Yeah.
Is okay. Yeah. So he learns moves from the creatures you fight, and then he leaves the party for a few rounds, and then comes back with new moves learned. And so walkthroughs that I've seen actually says now's a good time to go over here and battle X, Y, and Z to learn moves A, B, and C. And I'm like, I never really bothered with him, but I probably should someday. But have you played with him much?
Yeah, I know a lot of people are like, I've read strategies for him, and a lot of people are very particular about which one. And I'm particular because I don't want to have to, all I want him to do is hit for a lot of damage, and I don't want to have to think about it. And it was really easy to get the rage for Stray Cat and it had to be before the World of Ruin. But if you just got the Stray Cat, he would go do probably 7 or 8 out of 10 times his attack would be Cat Scratch, which would hit for 9,999 earlier than almost any other character in the game. So I always just got Stray Cat, and it was like, let him just do Cat Scratch, and he will wreck people.
9,999. Yeah, I thought I was doing pretty good at 700 or 800.
This is that game though.
Okay.
So, but
gotcha.
yeah, Stray Cat was the one that once I got that, I was like, I'm done finding rages for him. Like, I did like when he would leap and you'd get him back at the end of a battle and you'd see him there. I did like every once in a while just be like, and poke, I hit you again. Like, watch you run away. Like, that was kind of fun. Yeah. He's an interesting character. So
I do like Cyan sword techs, and I don't remember what the combination is. Maybe it's not something you get until later in the game, but I remember there was a combination you to have 8 attacks in at once.
Yeah, Quadra Slice with the what do you say, the Genji glove, where you have 2 weapons on.
See, I had that, and it was still only doing 4 attacks, so I'm not sure what I was doing wrong.
Oh, there was another relic. Oh, what was it called? There's another relic you equip. You have to have 2 weapons, and then. But
yeah, I definitely had him dual wielding. I always had him dual wielding.
Yeah,
and so especially most of the last 5 or 6 hours I played, he had 2 swords that each had a random effect. So like one was like lightning and one was wind. So, and if just doing the normal melee attack could still wreck a party. If the random number generator fell my way.
Nice.
And in the sequences, just before the end of the first half, where you fight these ninjas that will disappear. And of course, I'm doing nothing but melees, and melees will miss when they're invisible. You have to use magic, which then was nice when one of Cyan's weapons did proc, because boom, everything's got magic and everyone shows up again.
Yeah.
So I will say this. I mean, again, total newcomer to the game. Maybe I've just been, playing too many games. I didn't play a lot of those types of games earlier in my life, and so I just haven't caught on with it. Like, I can see that this battle system is very deep. I think there's a lot of layers to it, and even towards the end of my, however many, 15 hours or whatever, that I've played, there's new systems being added. I mean, I was barely just starting to comprehend the whole idea of an Esper and what does that mean, and how do I use that or whatever. And it just makes me wish that, because I feel like I missed some things as I was going through too, like not weapons necessarily, but like how to really effectively use these skills, or even just how to use them. Like, I really had to do some research, looking up guides and whatever, or just trying, like they give you that one explanation one time. On here's this new type of power. Oh, cool. And wait a minute, that was like 3 hours ago. How did I do that? How do I do that again? Or it wasn't the more, obviously modern games these days are sometimes knocked for being too tutorial heavy to get you into things. But sometimes I wish some of those older games had more in-depth tutorials, or at least, and maybe I'm just missing it, but like a menu system where you could go in to be like, all right, what did you tell me earlier? I need to read this again. It's been 3 days since I played this game, or something like that.
Yeah, I have seen other games. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but kind of have like a dictionary of old tutorial topics. So you can go back and look something up. That would, I agree, that would have been handy. But so were you able to figure out that swapping espers around with your party lets them then learn new spells, so you can kind of customize your party as you want?
I barely scratched the surface. I think I had an Esper or two before I even knew what to do with it. Because again, there's no real go into your menu system here, tap this, go on to there, make sure you give it to every person, and make sure. Then here's how you actually use it. There's just all these different layers to what you actually need to do with that. And so I definitely have not used it super effectively.
Yeah, I can see how that could be confusing for a first time through. Kind of like when I first started playing Persona 3, I didn't get the mechanics. But then I played Persona 4, and for some reason things clicked. And I had an epiphany, and I understood everything. And then I went back to play Persona 3, and then I got it, because it's still the same mechanics. So, yeah. But
like I said, it definitely looks like there's a lot there. The fact that I can be that long in and they're still introducing new concepts and stuff is cool. So
did you get to the Mage Village yet, or didn't get that far?
The Mage Village?
I think that's pick that's coming up for you.
I just finished the Opera House.
Okay.
That's with
so-
Realm and Strago
Yeah.
characters.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
No.
so
Or no,
You know-
I just got to and failed the Magitech Armor Factory or something.
okay.
Makes sense?
Yeah. So just like Gao, Cyan, and Sabin all have their own special abilities on top of their attack and magic.
You mean Tarzan?
Realm and Strago, they all have their own special ability as well. So more layers on top of what you've already got. So
Yeah, like getting into the battle mechanics of the game, it's the largest playable cast of of any RPG that I'm aware of, even to this day.
I think there's 32
and-
characters.
Something like that. It's insane, and like each of them have their own way to play, and so like you could do an episode on each character, even like just delving into how do they affect battle and what are the pros and cons of using them in certain ways. I really liked it. It was something I didn't use a lot until I got to that magic tower in the World of Ruin, where you get to the magic tower and having Celes or Celeste, however you say her name, in your group, using her runic blade and just being like, yep, you're going to use magic. It doesn't matter. I'm going to just absorb it. Like, it was a great, little thing where it's like, oh, yeah, like, this is the perfect time to have this character going. So, yeah.
Yeah, I usually forget about her runic ability because usually I don't. Most of the time, I don't have a sword equipped on her. I have like a flail or a morning star.
Oh, wow.
Mainly because when I do remember, oh yeah, she has this ability. I need to rework it to get past this area. But I usually have those type of weapons on my magic users because they can be in the back row and still do the same melee damage as if they were in the front row.
Sure. Yeah. I actually, my first few playthroughs, I used her exclusively as a tank. And I was like, I got her to be like a really good tank. But that was in subsequent playthroughs, I learned like, she's a really good caster.
Yeah, I think Cyan, I think it might be the best tank.
Yeah.
He and Sabin.
Yep. I would definitely agree. And Umaro, but you don't really control him. He just goes in and smashes things.
Yeah, he's like perma rage, right?
Right. Yes, it's awesome.
Yeah. So the one more thing I wanted to mention before we move on is Sabin and his techniques. Most of them are kind of useless, mainly because they're hard to pull off. Because you have to do certain key sequences on the controller to do it, and some of it involves like half circles or quarter circles on the controller. I remember, back when I mentioned the Super NES controller. Those were easy to pull off on that, but on a normal D-pad, it's almost impossible. I remember the one that does like I forget the name of it, but it's basically it does fire attack on everybody. I pulled that off maybe 1 in 8 times. Most of the time it failed.
That one was the one that went from one side to the other side.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
Left, downward to right.
Yeah, and then for some reason I found it his ultimate one, the Bum Rush, like that one I found to be easier to go all the way around the D-pad than to stop at a certain point in the circling throughout the D-pad. But like it's a technique to learn, and it's tough. Like it took a lot of practice, but getting used to that circular motion on a D-pad, it was really rewarding when you got good at the Bum Rush with that. But yeah, I imagine with the Super NES Advantage, I imagine that was way easier.
Yeah, because a lot of those are similar to like moves you do use in a Street Fighter 2 game.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
So my favorite attack in the entire game is Sabin versus the Phantom Train.
Yes.
We were just talking about this.
Suplex the train. Of course, I had to do that. I had to do that, and I have that on video.
That is my band. I play in a video game cover band. That is my band's last album title. Is Suplex a Train. So it's the best animation ever.
Mark showed it to me earlier. It's pretty great. I definitely did not do that move when I took on the train.
Looking at you should just look up artist renditions of like realistic versions of this person suplexing a train, and like the amount of rage this person would have to get into to like pull this maneuver off, and like seeing this giant train flipping in the air and everyone running for their life. It's great.
Okay. Yeah. This is actually going on longer than I thought it would, but which is good. You know, we're actually talking and not just stumbling over our thoughts. So let's go on to what I think most of us enjoy the most about this game is the music. I multiple times when I was doing the live stream in the chat, someone would say this music is awesome. This is just the best music ever, and I completely agree. Oh, actually, Crimson Skidmark in the chat asks, "What's the name of your band?"
Oh, it's called Playing with Power, which is a very literal name because we play electric instruments. So, but yeah, Playing with Power.
Yeah, and then in the music buffers you use in your podcast between segments is part of your band, right?
Correct. Sure. Yeah. Yep. It's free, so that's good.
All right.
But yeah,
I've seen his band play live several times. They're great. Sorry.
It's nerdy fun. So, the music in Final Fantasy VI to me, it makes heavy use of leitmotif, and if I'll just refer to that as like themes for characters from now on. So a character's theme, which is I used it in like middle school music appreciation classes, where I would use Final Fantasy VI to teach about musical concepts, about leitmotif, and like, all right, so this is like this character's theme, and like if you hear this theme, you know, you don't even need to look at the screen. You know, this character is being, you know, worked into the story in some way. And sometimes different characters, like there'll be music playing and you'll hear just like hints of different themes that show up. And you're like, oh, like that's what this is about right now.
For everyone else who isn't as musically inclined, the most famous example of this is Star Wars. And
sure.
Bum, 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 bum.
Yeah. Yep. I would, yeah, definitely, and I think
does a lot with it,
yeah, yep. I like the like just the victory, the fanfare when you win a battle. It's just like that is something that, you know, everybody. I mean, almost every gamer hears da 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 dum bum 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 bum, and you just know like, oh, Final Fantasy, you just won. You won a battle. Like, it's such a great theme. But yeah, the way that those themes are written, and like we were listening to the aria earlier from the opera scene, and how that is Celis's theme, but put to words, and like you start to see like how she's like you see those words, and it's perfect foreshadowing for like how she finds meaning and how to go on with her life, like when she becomes like the first character you get in the world of Ruin. And it's really beautiful how that works out, because she's this like rejected general from the Empire and like trying to figure out her lot in life, and then it's, you know, like, oh, I care about Locke, and like I care about more than just like my misery, like I can go on, and it's a really great moment. And yeah, I'm sorry, I'll let other people jump in here, but I could go on and on.
Yeah, so, I mean, even from before I actually played the game itself, when I found out I was going to do this with you guys, I just kind of pulled up a YouTube playlist of the, you know, the soundtrack itself. And I noticed right away that, you know, obviously that they're working with the limitations of the system and the, you know, the sound chips that they had and whatnot. But I just noticed right from the very beginning, this is a very well orchestrated music, and it's like written for the full orchestra that they can make on a, you know, on a 16-bit console, and it sounds quite realistically in many ways. And then I just think you know, it's a very orchestral sound. There's great arranging that goes on. Obviously, it's not necessarily your traditional like chiptune rock beats and all those things that accompanied a lot of those games, especially the platformers or beat 'em ups or whatever from that day. So, it's definitely setting itself apart for kind of the more grand adventure that you're going on, which is cool. I also noticed that a lot of it is just in minor keys, and it's pretty dark, which as I have played this game, realizing that there are just a lot of dark themes throughout the game itself. The story can take several very sad turns here and there, and again, this is just what I've played so far. But again, from what I hear, it's this grand story of.
I think Cyan's Arc is probably the first dark theme.
Oh, it's just so sad. Oh man, so sad. The music, I love the flute in the that pan flute or whatever it is that's going on. Bum, bum, bum. It's so great. Ba-da-dum-bum. Yeah, I love his theme.
So yeah, whoever I should know this, but whoever the composer for this stuff is,
Nobuo Uematsu.
There you go. Yeah,
I was going to look it up, but I guess I don't have to.
There you go.
'Cause I do have the soundtracks of 4 and 6 in my iTunes library.
Nice. Just a lot of dark, sonorities and tonalities, and even in the more lighthearted kind of sections of the game, you still get hints of that impending doom that's coming. And it kind of reminds me of when you play Zelda Majora's Mask, and you've got that opening sequence where you have the whole town just there's the main town theme going, and it's all cheerful and bright and happy, and then towards a minute or two in or something, you start to get these just very subtle little dissonances that slide their way in, and that kind of transitions into this really dark and thing as it starts to show you the moon and all the evil thing, the bad things that are going down in that city. So that reminded me of that a lot. But yeah, there's a lot of great stuff in Final Fantasy VI. Just very hummable tunes, but also very just poignant and very well done for the style of the game that it is.
I also want to add on top of all the characters having their own themes, and they're all great in their own way, from the simplistic Shadows theme, just the twang of the guitar.
Jim.
Stop it. No, that was, I really like Edgar's theme. It's really triumphant and great. Locke's theme is fantastic, but Dancing Mad is the best end game music ever. It's the final battle music is so stinking good. And I read, I should have looked it up beforehand. It was on Polygon, or I think it was on Destructoid. Anyways, this person did this amazing analysis of how Dancing Mad, the music that accompanies the final battle, how it works with the game, because he talks about how there's no speech. Usually the main villain will have some kind of speech either before the battle or when you beat them, they'll have some speech. And this analysis of the music was the music is the speech. It starts off really menacing, and then it becomes this you get a little bit in the second act of it. You get a little bit of the maniacal but circusy music of Kefka that we always knew, and it's kind of how it plays into who he is. It's really interesting. And then you get the third movement of it, which is very similar to Toccata and Fugue, Bach, and it's really cool how that is all. There's also a quote of Kefka's theme in there, and then you finally get the final battle, and you get the organ piece from the very beginning, and then it suddenly becomes this prog rock piece with mixed meter, intense drums, and it's brilliant. It's such good writing, and it's that I'm almost certain it was on Destructoid, but it would be worth for your listeners to check it out. Is just reading through how this person broke down how they look at this masterpiece of music to be Kefka's speech, in lieu of using words. So,
because he did enough monologuing in part one.
He did, yeah. Yep. And like you get glimpses of him throughout the second half, but there's no music to accompany him. It's just his death ray, just like mindlessly swatting ants away, like you mean nothing to me, and like just killing hundreds of people for no reason, you know. But
a medieval Death Star. Is that what's going on?
I'm not dissimilar, yeah. So.
So, well, kind of wanted to talk about that opera house scene because as our listeners know, I've mentioned it multiple times. That's my favorite scene in pretty much all of gaming.
It's so good.
Yeah, because as I said, I was in an orchestra in high school, and I participated in several musicals. So that kind of being a part of the opera in game kind of brought me back to that mindset. So I just thought, this is just awesome. And I didn't do it this time for some reason. I completely forgot to. But what I've always done in the past is just when I get to the opera house, I use a different save slot to save it progress there, so I can always go back to it and just replay that segment over and over again.
Yeah.
And so, go ahead.
I was going to say, Brad and I were talking about the opera scene earlier today, and Brad just made a really good small comment that's like, it sums up the wonderful absurdity of part of that. Like, oh, this is just an octopus up in the rafters or whatever you said. Like, yeah, like Ultros is just hanging out up there, and he's going to destroy this opera because Ultros is crazy and great. That is very tense getting to Ultros, getting past the rats, you know. But
right,
especially with that time limit, and when there is a time limit, and you have to have forced combat, the timer continues to tick during the combat, so you got to go through that as fast as you can.
Yes, you do.
So, obviously some people are very familiar with it, but maybe others like me, until 3 days ago, weren't as familiar with it. So essentially what happens is it's a pretty neat little segment there where you show up at this opera house and you meet like the caretaker or something.
Impresario.
Impresario, yeah. And somehow you end up, there's this performance that's going to be going on, and then something goes amiss, and you have to kind of step in, and what is it? His
star Maria gets a kidnapping threat. And Celis, of course, looks just like Maria. So you decide, hey, we want this guy on our side because he has the world's only airship. So let's rig a trap to catch him.
Right, and so to try to catch him, what is it? Maria? No,
Celis,
Jules, her name.
Oh no!
See, you say Jules, I think Watson all of a sudden.
So Jules steps in and she pretends to be Maria, and but it's this whole sequence of you have to they tell you a couple times, hey, do you want to look at the script again? Do you want to look at the script again? And you're like, yes. And so you have to memorize the words that are there, and then actually perform them in time with music that happens, throughout that, I guess, interactive cinematic of sorts. Way before QTEs were around. So you're standing there, and it's pretty neat how, again, there was a melody that was written for this song that plays, and your character sings along, and the words have to go, and then every little bit you have to, what's the next words of the song, and you have a couple different choices, and you kind of fill it in, and so you role play the role of Maria and whatever she's playing in that opera, and just the way the scene is set up, you've got it's first of all, it's a beautiful art set. It's got the whole opera hall there, and it's got the people in the seats, and the orchestra sitting up there in the front. They're like going back and forth on their cellos and basses and violins and whatnot, and
with their 2-frame animation.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. Furiously between two frames. Just
and the conductor is just going like this,
Right.
waving his
Uh-huh.
hands.
Doesn't matter how fast it's going. It's just we're doing
Yes. very staccato playing. I love it.
everything's at quarter note equals 170. Doesn't matter.
In 2/2 time.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. So that was a really, you know, very emotional kind of moment, and it's just really picturesque and beautiful scene. And then all of a sudden,
Octopus in the Rafters.
the octopus and the raptors, yeah. Raptors. And so Ultros, who's a boss that you fought earlier in the game in the lake or the river where he's supposed to be.
Yeah. And then of course you fight him later on too.
Oh, of course.
He comes
He
back
just
a few
shows up and
times.
he wants to ruin everything. So it's like a race to get up to the rafters because that's where he pulls Jules. I mean, whatever her name is, and keeps her. He does get to go rescue her, and there's a time limit for it. So that's kind of the synopsis. What are more of your thoughts, Jesse, on just the whole scene?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think you summarized everything well. What I wanted to talk about a little bit more was kind of like an out-of-game story related to it. Going back almost 10 years ago on another podcast I listened to, Infendo Radio, and you know, our listeners have heard us talk about Infendo before because Zach used to be a co-host on that. Though in around November of 2008. They held a contest where the prize was their review copy of Wii Music.
Congratulations.
The contest was, tell us what your favorite song is from video games and why. So I put a submission in, good size email explaining why I liked that Opera House sequence so much, and a whole bunch of things that related to it. I won that contest.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I know I've talked about this on our regular show before.
And you took Wii U Music home and you played it for hours and hours and hours.
I
right?
actually did give it to my kids for Christmas that year, and they played it for about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But we still have it somewhere in the shelves.
Okay.
Anyway, so I saved that audio clip from, this is Infendo Radio episode 127 from November 24th, 2008, when they announced the winner. So I saved that clip, and I'll throw it at the end of this show so other people can hear how that goes. And they read my letter almost verbatim, and it's fun. I think I've attached it to an episode before, but it was like 2 years ago. So we've got new listeners since then who've never heard the story. So that'll cool. I'll slap that at the end.
I do have to say, it's almost cheating for you to enter that contest with the opera scene. That's like playing like the trump card, like in any card game. Like you just no one can beat that. Like,
here's Exodia. Boom.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was that. Where did my notes go? Okay. Any final thoughts from anything we didn't cover before we go on to some listener input?
Oh man,
I've covered everything I wanted to cover. So if not, we can go on. If there is, then go ahead. I
mentioned this earlier a little bit, but like my overall impression of the game is I think it's excellent, especially for a genre that I'm not into as much with the turn-based RPGs and what. But I gotta say, like I was kind of alluding to earlier, sometimes those random battles they really get to me. Like I said, so I'm just trying to get from point A to point B. It was really tough, and it's not because I totally get that that's part of the genre, part of the way that it kind of works. But then one of the other games that I played for just a little bit, I probably played maybe half an hour of it, was the demo for Bravely Default. Did you guys play that game?
I wanted to.
I played the first hour or so until I got to the first big boss, and as I said, I don't like job systems. I had the wrong jobs for the job.
Oh no! But that game had a feature on it where you could go into the settings and there was a slider, and all you had to do was turn that slider all the way down to nothing, and there were no more random battles. And so you could turn it up as much or as little as you wanted, depending on what you were, whether if you just wanted to travel a great distance, you could turn it off totally.
Or if you wanted to grind, you could do it really easily.
Totally, yeah. Which, again, maybe it's just modern things have clouded my judgment about the old things. But if I just kept thinking, oh man, I wish I had something like that. I wish I had something like that. And again, I get it. It's part of the system. But it did make me think about that. But again, overall, I really have enjoyed my time with the game so far. In fact, probably will continue to play it. Maybe not as concertedly as I have been the last 7 days. But
I would say you have to get to the floating continent. If you get to the floating continent and beat that, then you kind of get the gist of where the game's going.
Is that when the world goes to crap?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That puts you where I am now.
Okay.
Grind for a little bit before you go up and get at least a couple of your like beefier characters that are going to take most of your damage. Get them the gold armor in the town that you make it to, right? I think it's maybe Thamasa.
I don't even think I got the gold armor.
No?
No, I generally go as minimalistic as I can, and I barely squeeze by.
I always like to feel safe going against, what is it? Is it called Atma Weapon up there? Or...
Oh, I think I ran away from him.
Okay.
I don't think I beat him. I don't remember.
By the way, I have to say, looking through all those armors and things that we've been getting, like, I've been trained on all the Lord of the Rings, lore for all my life, basically. And I early on in the game, I get this thing called Mithril armor. I'm like, wow, that's awesome. I'm gonna be invincible.
Mithril is good early game armor, but it doesn't last long.
Yeah. No. Yep. It becomes cardboard. Like
I've been lied to.
It's now turned into Labo.
Yep. Yes. Nice. That's awesome.
Okay.
Cool.
Anyway,
so I have two pieces of listener input. Both are kind of related in commenting the retail price when the game was new, and I completely forgot what it was.
Yeah.
Well, we'll start with Ryan Craig. He sent me a message on Twitter. I remember the MSRP was $80.
Was.
Fortunately, I had a coupon for $3 off at Electronics Boutique. So, congratulations on your 2% off. Maybe.
Yep. 7 games to get that.
And then Jason B on our Discord chat, which is kind of related to what we talked about Toys R Us closings in the past few episodes. So that's all kind of wrapped into that. He says he bought this game for $80 upon release. This is his last memory of shopping at Toys R Us. And he wishes that you could have had General Leo as a full-time party member. He was awesome.
Yes, Royal Shook. That was a sweet ability. Yep. Yeah, that was why I wanted. I grinded for so long in that forest in the World of Ruin to get General Leo back, because after you fought your 100th, what are they called, Brachiosaurs or whatever, they would cast Ultima on you and wreck you. After you fought 100, you would get a special Phoenix Down that you could use to bring back General Leo. Yeah, that didn't happen. I lost track of how many times I fought those things. After like 70, but I was like, okay, just keep going. So I probably spent another month there, and it never happened. So, yeah. But that General Leo would have been a sweet playable character. I know there are mods where you can get him now, if you want to do that. But I know the price being $80 was insane. Like even not like today, I think the world would explode if it was like, the new, you mentioned Persona. It's going to be $80. Well, and wasn't Chrono Trigger $90 when that came out?
I honestly don't remember, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah,
the Super Nintendo economy works kind of insane.
Yeah.
If I remember right, because I don't remember paying $80. I think I rented it from a Blockbuster, liked it so much, so I paid their keep it price. That they let you do that, similar to what GameFly lets you do. So I might have. So I don't. It still might have been $40 or $50, but.
What was the most expensive game you ever bought, Brad?
Probably. I mean, I think I paid like 70 or 75 for the GoldenEye for Wii, but that was because I had the Golden Pro controller in it.
Yeah.
It was a pretty good game.
Yeah. I remember paying, I think it was 50 or 60 bucks regularly for games on the NES. But beyond that, I like outside of special editions, I didn't own Final Fantasy VI when it was Final Fantasy III on the Super Nintendo until maybe 6 years or so after it came out. I had a friend who I would just go over to his house and play at his house. So I'd watch him play for like 2 hours, then I'd play for 2 hours, and I spent a lot of time doing that.
I think by the time that I was really, because I'm the baby of this trio here, I think by the time I was actually old enough to be buying my own games and really investing in those kind of things, the prices had kind of stabilized. We were into the very late N64 and then into early GameCube eras of gaming when it was basically at $50 for everything. So yeah. I kind of missed a lot of the age where it was like you never knew exactly what the price was going to be, and you never knew when it was going to be released, or whether Japan would get it first, or whether we would get it, or everyone would get, just like all those factors had been kind of sorted out.
Yeah, I did just, and I looked it up a minute ago. Chrono Trigger was $80. Yeah, it was kind of the Wild West. It was just like before they, like you said, before they stabilized, just a lot of games would come out and be like, oh, okay, I'll just save up my allowance for another couple months. Like,
I don't need to go to college.
I know.
I'll save it for another couple of years.
If you went to college, you wouldn't have time to play it anyway.
Yeah.
All right,
cool.
So I think this wraps up our show. Why don't you give yourselves another little plug as we let people know where they can find you?
Okay, so we are obviously, like I said earlier, we're the Nintendo Directors. We have iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, all the things. You can find us there. You can find us on Twitter at @N_Directors. We probably should have plugged this at the beginning of the show, but whatever. We're pretty excited about the episode we just posted a few hours ago. Our newest episode. We are featuring.
I can't wait to listen to this.
Yeah, we did an interview with Chris Madigan, who's the composer on the game Cuphead, which you may have heard of, some of you. That little darling indie game from 2017.
Retro graphics.
Yeah.
Right. Very retro. That guy is awesome. He was super.
Very cool.
We talked with him for like an hour, and he was.
He only charged us $20,000 for that too.
That's right. Yeah, we'll also be paying that off for the next couple of years. No. Again, just really interesting guy, and his story of just like how he was, how he got involved with the Moldenhauers, and getting involved with the game itself, and what the process was of, recording and making all those things, and just seeing what it's like to be a composer in a video game business is really interesting. So, if that sounds something like that you'd like to hear, check us out again. Nintendo Directors on most of the podcast services and whatnot. So that should be live as we speak, I think. You can think of anything else, Mark, that we?
No.
Next episode, we're gonna have a soundtrack review for Super Mario Odyssey. Finally.
It took us 6 months, 7 months to get to that.
Well, it takes that long to have it all soak in.
Yeah. There we go. I like
all the moves. That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's us. Thanks for having us on this show.
No,
Jesse.
Thanks for being here. I've been wanting to have you on for a while, and the schedules have always. It's hard to do that in the middle of marching band season, because
it is. It's impossible.
No, but please, we'd love to join you guys anytime, even for the regular show too. If it's if you're in a pinch and you need some guys to fill in, or
sure. I'll keep you in mind. So I wanted to give a special thanks to Warren Akers, who put a YouTube video out that has his arrangement of Maria and Draco, which is from the Opera House sequence. That was the music that we played in the beginning, and then in post I'll sprinkle in various other pieces of soundtrack in the middle of the episode. And if you want to give me a link to the song that you want to throw in, I'll put that at the end of this episode, then followed by my Infendo Radio clip.
Oh, sure, cool. Sweet.
Okay. All right, so this is probably the longest Retro Rewind episode we had, which is a good thing.
We did
it. we had a lot to talk about. I'm glad it worked. It worked out well. We haven't. I think Marty is coming up with the next 2 games to vote on, and I think we'll be talking about that on tomorrow night's show, which of course would have been already released on the feeds, because this won't go out until later on. But it'll all make sense once you hear it.
If you guys ever want to talk about Final Fantasy VI again, I'm 100% game for that. So
alrighty. All right. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll end with some music and put in post. And thanks for listening, and good night.
Good night.
Night.